friends, happy Thursday. It's Pastor Karen again with a Thoughtful Thursday. I'm sorry I've missed a couple weeks, but I'm so glad to be back together on this Thursday. And look, I get to be outside. This is my favorite place to record my Thoughtful Thursdays. I don't know if you can hear them, but the birds are singing loudly, and it's really just such a beautiful evening. So I'm so glad to be with you tonight. So I wanted to talk today a little bit about May being Mental Health Awareness Month, and I just think that mental health is such an important conversation for us to be having, and I love that we have a month that we can, emphasize and we can talk about and we can read articles about, and I think it's just been emphasized even more so since the pandemic. And maybe all of us have recognized that we have or have felt mental health challenges and concerns during the pandemic that maybe we never felt before, or we never had a situation that made us feel quite so uncomfortable. So, I think it's really important, as we've talked about many, 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 many times over the last couple years that we've been together on these Thoughtful Thursdays, about, taking care of ourselves and taking care of each other. And this is a great month to be reminded about mental health awareness. So, first of all, it's, I think a good definition to start with is the difference between like a mental health concern and a mental health diagnosis, right? So, as far as we've come with changing the stigma of mental health diagnoses, we still have really, I think, a lot of work to do. But I do think that we have more of an understanding of what it means to have a mental health concern. And that's like a transient or a circumstantial or situational time in your life where you might be, let's say, anxious or depressed or nervous. And for reasons that we feel are normal, right? I think in the pandemic, it felt normal for us to be anxious. We didn't really know what was happening. This was the first time we had been through this. We were getting conflicting information. We just felt anxious, right? And so I don't know that means that all of us around the world now have diagnoses of anxiety. And yet we do have friends and family who struggle every day with anxiety, and some of that is genetic, some of that is just kind of how we're wired, some of that is how many tools we have the ability to use kind of in our toolbox of coping, and some people just need some extra support in their anxiety or depression. So the difference between having a mental health concern or having a situation or a short-term transient situation, maybe you had a death in the family, certainly feeling depressed and down, that's normal. Maybe you have an illness that you're trying to get through and you're feeling down and kind of and depressed. And it doesn't mean you don't have depression, but it does mean that perhaps it comes from a different place. And then, certainly depression being, again, genetic or, just based on trauma that you've had in your past. Lots of things that contribute to people needing some extra help with depression, including medication. And I always think this is a great time to talk about medication, and that it's really not such a bad thing if you need to seek medical attention for your mental health concerns, and you think that they've gotten to a point where you need to ask for some additional help, that there's really no shame in helping you, taking a medication to help you. I always tell people, like, we take a Tylenol, right, when we have a headache. So I think that we just have created a stigma in our culture about what that means to be on those kinds of medications. So, but all in all, I also want to share that you are not alone if you are feeling this way. Another theme that we've been talking about the pandemic is that we are all in this together. But really 1 in 5 Americans have a diagnosable mental health condition or disease. So 1 in 5. So you are far from being alone. And that 1 in 5 is only the people that actually seek help and go to a physician and get quote unquote counted, right? So the number might be significantly higher, and I think in these times, it likely is. I think as I've been kind of concentrating on mental health awareness this month, I think it's important to also recognize the need to reach out for help if you need it, right? So sometimes we're thinking we can just hang in there and we'll get past this and we're strong enough to do this, and we say those things to ourselves, and yet just getting some help, there's no shame in that either. So whether that's talking to your pastor or a therapist or a social worker or reaching out to a physician, I think unfortunately our psychiatrist friends, they sometimes get a bad rap because we've so long called them shrinks, or and we have this, I guess, this impression that maybe when we see a psychiatrist, or we need to see a psychiatrist, that they're going to somehow fix us. And I really think that that's a really big myth about mental health treatment. And it's not about fixing, it's about becoming aware, and again, giving you tools and helping you navigate through these feelings, and how you can work to address them and maybe keep them at bay in other situations. So it is hard work, but I don't think I want to make sure that there's no that people don't feel shame about asking for help. I think it's brave to ask for help, and I think the work of a therapist or a social worker can be really great and life-changing, transformational work. And so I think that that's also really important. It doesn't mean that just because you visit one of those medical professionals that you're automatically going to go on medication. So many of us just need some extra listening ears, right? And somebody to kind of walk the walk in this journey with us. So I encourage you, if you're feeling down or anxious, or feeling kind of like you're not quite yourself, that you would seek assistance. What else have I been thinking about mental health? Certainly praying for people, and that they would get the help that they need, and tell their story, because they're not alone. I do know the one thing that I've also been thinking about is it's important for us to take care of ourselves, right? It's important for us to reach out, to have good self-care disciplines, but it's also really important for us to love our neighbor, and it's really important for us to take care of each other. And I think so often we want to help, right? We all have like good intentions, and sometimes we don't really know what to say, and we have all said something that we wished we hadn't said, or in hindsight we thought, oh, maybe that wasn't the best thing to say. So I thought that maybe it would be good for me to share with you today some things that maybe you shouldn't say, or that you should consider what it actually means before you say it. And I think that when I look at this list, I think that I have probably said all of these things in a situation where I didn't necessarily, looking back, that I really didn't think that I should have probably said that in this situation. But then I also want to share with you a list of things that maybe you can say. So things maybe not to say, right? And so to say, oh, you're just overreacting. Or it's all in your head. Well, actually, it kind of is. So that's probably true. But it's all in your head. Just kind of get over it. Come on, things could be worse, right? That whole comparison. So important that we each are on our own journey, right? And whether someone else is handling the same situation better or differently than you are, that's kind of how God made us, to be individuals and to walk this journey a little bit differently. Snap out of it, right? I just want to tell people, just snap out of it. How about this one? I think I've probably said this one before. But you have a great life and you look so happy. Or you have so many things to be happy about. Why would you be sad? How about this too shall pass? Which, we know it's true, but in the moment when it feels like it's never going to pass, that maybe not is the most hopeful or helpful. Or how about this one? Just try to be positive. Like somehow we have a choice, and somehow we have chosen to feel anxious or depressed in that moment, and we could just flip a switch, right, and be positive. It doesn't really work that way. So how about some things that you could say? How about things like, thank you for telling me how you feel. Thank you so much for sharing that with me. Or talk to me. I'm here to listen. Whatever you want to talk about. Or would you like to talk about how you're feeling? Would you like to talk about what's going on? Or even just, what are you going through? And if you don't want to talk to me, then who might you feel comfortable talking to about what you're going through? What can I do to help? What a beautiful thing to say to people. And you are not alone. I think those are very powerful words. You don't need to share your story. You don't need to say, oh, I know how you feel because I did such and such, and this situation was so much like what you're going through. Just to say, you're not alone. I get it. I get it. And the last one is, this must be really hard for you, but you're going to get through it. This must be really hard for you, but you're going to get through it. What encouraging words those are. Throughout the Bible, we hear words of encouragement, right? In 1 Peter, we hear, cast all your cares upon him. Cast all your anxieties, some translations say. Isn't that very interesting that we would be talking about mental health and we can go right to the Bible and we can see that God cares about us and our mental health. And in Philippians, we read, do not worry about anything, but take everything to God and thanksgiving, right? So important. And I always read Psalm 23 a little bit differently when I think about mental health. I think it's verse 4 that says, even though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will be with you, right? So even when we feel dark and even when we feel in the shadows, even when we feel like we are just stuck, that God is still with us. So all over the Bible, you can read affirmation of God caring about us, caring about how we feel, caring about our souls, caring about how we think about ourselves and how we think about others. And so this May, Mental Health Awareness Month, I hope that you'll just take a few moments to maybe Google Mental Health Awareness Month and read some articles or some statistics, or read some people's stories, or reach out to a friend that you think might be struggling. Or if you're struggling yourself, can you use this month to reach out to someone, to just tell someone your story, just to say, hey, I want to get this off my chest, and maybe we can get through May with a little bit more love and a little bit more care, and a little less anxiety. So I hope that's true for all of us, and I hope that as the weather changes, that people can get outside and get the fresh air. We know all of those tools work, just to help us feel better. So happy May, and I hope you have a great week. Take care, my friends.